said, well, I guess you got it from here. But that's a true story. So that's where that technique came from. Terminal 4, St. Louis Airport. So anyway, just a fun little story for you. Yeah, that was about 4 years ago now. Anyway, okay, so we're going to do something different now. But before we do, did you get that? You see how that works?
Yes, sir.
So, no, you never got it?
I didn't get the knee lock.
No?
Couldn't get the pressure on the knee.
Okay, well, we'll do that as soon as I get them started on this. But do you understand how that principle works? I mean, it can work with anything. You can put your knee in, you can, I mean, anything that's going to fill that void, and then you crank it, then it's just going to... Okay, so, different idea now. Different now. May I use you? Okay. Now let's go left-right, punches to the face again. All right, so we're going to go like shielding hammer 5 swords. So when we did the inside of the left, I stepped back with a parry and a hit. And then when the right came in, then I did an inward hooking because I'm in with this hand. Just put both hands up. I've got this hand this far away from me. So I travel now across the body and block and cross-check. If I was this far across the body and I went for the bicep, because it's action-reaction, the chance is much greater for him to get it in anyhow without me getting my checkup. So because I came from here, I came across and stayed on the upside of this inward flexing hinge now, because this now is my problem. So I'm inside here and open my hand and travel with the heel, hand sword, just like 5 swords, and then I pivot and I do the eye poke, but I keep my right hand right next to my face here, as opposed to going down for this one, because of the next move. So I chop here and hit, and then my hand is right here. Now I'm going to unwind, and I'm going to hammer fist across the nose and do a push-drag shuffle, pow, and get that depth of action inside, which puts my elbow right onto the next move, which is just a collapsing elbow down. And now we're in our shielding hammer position. So then from here, I'm going to come in, eye poke, rebound off myself, and here we go back with what I was doing on Eddie earlier, saying that we're going to get to this anyhow. So this is the directional harmony thing in back here, which this action creates this reaction, which feeds this action, and then hammer fist to the groin. So, and that's our beginning sequence. So it's left, right to the face. Okay, I'm on the rebounding thing. But what I want you to do is step back with your left leg slowly now, if you would. Step back on your left leg. Come on. No, I'll step back. You come in and punch. And there's my parry. See that first? Just your regular shielding hammer. Parry. And then so come in deeper. And hit me about. That's where I want to be. So I want to be right on that radial brachialis, and that's a nerve that responds to pressure or to striking. So I want to hit that plow and see that opens up and wham, and now. Then we get to here. Now I'm going to hit and directional harmony in. So static, harmony. So I get a little bit more of a hit. Okay? And then we're going to add from there. You got that? Okay. And hit that arm right on that. See, it took his arm out of play. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but that's the intention here. Is what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to make that whole thing not be able to use that again. So now we did this. When you come here, now we were doing this. Now the idea is I'm going to launch and rebound and directional harmony, drop and turn, you know, all that stuff. And so what I was doing was going here. What I'd like you to do is, I've hit here, pow, pow. Use the, now don't bend over now. Use the same principle that we're using here, but use it here. So I'm just going to change a middle target to a high target, but it isn't going to change the principle of motion anymore. So I was here. And that's where we're going to wind up. So I come from here, and now I'm going to go pow. And when I hit here, now I'm going to come back to my 5 sword. And when I come back off here, instead of finishing my 5 swords here, I come back off of it and now find my place to go right back to my shielding hammer. So when you take a technique like that and cut it in the middle, open it up and insert a portion of another technique, that's called interphase grafting. because I went back to the original technique. So I cut shielding hammer in half, put a piece of 5 swords in there, and then went back to shielding hammer. And so in order for it to be interphase grafting, I have to have the entire technique, cut it open, put a piece in there. So I have to return to the original technique. Now we'll go light for a change. You see it? Anyone not see it? Okay. Eddie, come here for a second. I didn't think to ask. We'll just go slowly. Left for a minute. Okay. So just stand up now. We won't do the technique. Just stand up. So I went here before. Stand up. Now I'm just going to go higher. That's why you can't, because you come right down into that. So what I'm trying to do is catch him here, do that same thing. Turn and drop like up here. And I hit and flash through it. His head will rock when I hit, especially if I whip that. So it'll turn. And see, then I can drop it. And I got my launching off of my bicep thing. And then I'm right back up here. Now I probably will have to shift a little bit. Okay? Clear? Thank you. But we'll do it again. See, that's what I don't want to see. Because then that's just speed for the sake of speed. And there's a balance between the value of impact being mass times acceleration squared. So mass given multiplied by how important is acceleration, so important it's squared. That's multiplied by not plus. So in other words, it increases, the impact value increases geometrically with the faster I move. So it'll go 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, not 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Follow that thinking? Now, so that means the faster I can move, the greater the impact value. But if I start taking away with my mass, if I don't have directional harmony, then that equation tips on the other side. Now I'm going too fast for my body. I could easily make my hands go faster than my stance. And that was one of the big differences between Tatum's Kenpo and then when I first started going to Mr. Parker. Of course, I thought they were the same, but they weren't the same at all. Mr. Parker's Kenpo was much more dynamic and much more powerful. Because almost everywhere that I remember, Larry Tatum put in twist stances. And when I went to Mr. Parker, he made them forward and reverse bows. And his timing changed. And the difference was the impact value, because that's what he was after. That's what we should all be after. And so when I made that transition from learning from Tatum over to Mr. Parker, the thing that was so important to me, and I felt so much at home, was because I came from Japanese karate, which was that over-exaggerated forward bow, reverse bow, total commitment of the power for one move with no fluidity whatsoever. But if you could take that idea of the impact value of every move and then put in the fluidity that we have indigenous to our art, you're a wrecking machine, right? You're the best of both worlds. And that's what you have to be careful with. So the 5 sword should be more like... So one of the points that you want to emphasize is this uppercut hit and bounce off to the neck. Because I want him to get hit here and start to come in and then get stuck. And that's why you step off the line to a forward bow, not a twist stance. Because I want to go slowly. Because I want to lock this joint here. See that lock? So I get out of the way, and my target is a slight angle, but it's a rebounding straight line from a neutral forward, and I use my turn back to neutral, and then I bounce, go pow. So I'm standing right back up. So it should be da-da-da, da da-da-da. So you can hear that. So if I just had you guys run a technique line and I knew you were going to do 5 swords, I could sit there and look at the ground or close my eyes, and I could listen to the timing of the technique and know what you're hitting and know what you're missing. Because there is a timing and a rhythm to these techniques that make them more practical, more applicable, or not. You follow what I'm saying? And that's part of what advanced motion is all about in Kenpo, is playing with timing. So when I alter the timing of a technique, I wind up emphasizing different principles involved in that technique. And that's how you tailor the system to fit your own needs, and your own body, and all that kind of stuff. When you change the timing, you alter the principles. And that's what we should all be doing once we get into brown and certainly into the levels of black and the extensions, is we start altering the timing of the techniques to fit our own body and our own expression. So one of the things I see that's wrong all the time is people doing 5 swords like that other time. You know, you've got to somehow do that and to be able to put the dynamics of the movement, which are locked into the formula of the commitment of and utilization of the mass of your body with speed, not just speed in and of itself. And that's when you get really dynamic and really powerful karate. And that's really the lesson that I got directly from Mr. Parker. You know, I was at his house every week for almost 4 years, so I spent more time with him in 4 years than most people spent with him in 40 years that saw him every 3 months. Because then I saw him at the West LA Dojo every Thursday night, and then I had the relationship in the movie business with him, so I knew what he wanted. And I knew how he wanted me and us to move, and that's why we moved so similarly. Because when he came, you can always tell, I could tell when I travel around the world and I see somebody who studied with Mr. Parker, that's it right there. You know, I can see it really clear. Or I can see somebody who came from a different area of Mr. Parker's life, maybe a little bit more antiquated version of Kenpo. But, so you want to alter your timing only in the way that's going to allow you to keep the mass of your body in directional harmony with what we're doing. Okay? So now the extension. But that's not enough. So we'll go slowly. Here's that. On the second one, come in. You got to come in closer. I can hit me on this. There we go. And then from here, I'm going to go back up to a neutral and just do a depth check. That sets up the correct distance for a front crossover punch to the solar plexus. With my hand down in this position, checking. This punch brings the head down slightly up to that elbow lifting, all in a twist stance. Then I do an inverted claw up. Now he's looking at the ceiling because I come out of my twist stance with a reigning heel palm right on the bridge of his nose while he's looking up. Then I claw all the way down, cancel his heights, and step off the line and get that circular rotation thing going. Now, there are, in my opinion, some moves in the whole system, but really in the extensions, that there's combinations that are just like almost magical. They're almost like, they're so dynamic, you know, like this, and like, you know, they're so powerful, you just want to get really good at them, because that's something that'll work for anybody, any place, anytime. One of them is, and something to be careful of, and I learned this the hard way, is when we're doing the extension, we're up here, and we do the front crossover, this hit with that elbow, those two things put together are a magic combination. And what happens is it goes so fast, that's right when I hit, right when I plant, and I use marriage of gravity, both those hit almost at the same time. It's such a quick. And if you do a front crossover and you really catch them and they come back just this much, you're going to eat it. You know, you're going to eat that elbow coming up. And I did that on a couple of my students, and I even looked at them and I said, you know, now I'm not going to do that. You know, so I even felt like I went like this, and I still caught them. It's so hard. It's almost like a carnivorous elbow. It's got to go on its own. You know, and it's a great combination. So play with that timing, and also be careful, because if you're kind of looking at it and your tongue is out, you know, there'll be a souvenir to take home later. So after we do our reverse pull, then we come back up to our depth check and check down and hit 2, unwind, then down. Don't make that last claw like a thrusting salute kind of a thing. It isn't that. It hits and goes up and up. Now I'm going to travel up and come right down on that nose. With that kind of settle, right on the nose. That way, with that directional harmony. So I just unwind, and there's my hit, my cancel. And then I step out, and there's my swing back in. Okay? Thank you. Go. Left right, turn around. Hit him. Did you do the technique we were doing here? I forgot to mention that little email. Okay, go ahead. And then we get here, and then we get here, and people are doing another elbow. See, there is only one elbow on that sequence when you drop. So let's start again. Right. So when I get to here, see where all that is now? So when I get here back up, and I hit here, now I'm in the position. See that? Get to the uppercut of 5 swords, and I get back over here. Now is the time where I go. You just finish with that shield. And so that's when I'm standing over here and I'm saying, now back to shield and hammer, but you're not. You're putting another elbow in there. That's what I mean by back to shield and hammer. Slowly then. Okay? Go. Yeah. Now slip your right hand to the flash over. Yeah, that's right. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Good. So you want to break somebody's nose, don't do it here. Start here and then go through it that way. Do a lot more damage. But the hammer fist goes here on a straight line. See, and that's what's meant to happen. And that creates an angle of incidence for the elbow on the sternum, which brings the head right back down. So I get this, and then this, and when that head comes back down, it's right into the eye poke. It's right into that eye poke. See how that's working? So a lot of times we don't do that while we're dumbing. But the idea is why you do a push, drag, shuffle. My idea is to hit him in the nose right here and go that far through it. Because when his head rocks back and does this, I want my elbow right on top of the sternum. So that's why you travel another 8 inches or a foot or something. Okay? Because a lot of people will ask why, have asked me in the past why, because I know I can hit him and break his nose. Yes, you can, but it's the hit next after. It's the setup for the shot after that. Okay, I thought that was an excellent job. That's a busy technique. There's a lot going on in there. But the principles are all the same. You know, whether you go high or you go low or you know, I mean, we're just really having fun with that second technique. I mean, nobody's going to be able to hang in there all day. If they, once again, if they can hang through that, you just give them the keys to your car. They have a thing in Brazil. We about 6 months ago, I had the pleasure of going to Brazil with a guy named Jose de Rocha. And de Rocha means the rock. And he really is. He's a jiu-jitsu street fighter who came to the United States looking at Kenpo after seeing my movies and studying from this guy and that guy, watching videos all over the place, wound up at our camp 2 years ago and got to see everybody teaching there, and then asked me to be his instructor, which I was, and then a few months later he was learning enough that he switched his jiu-jitsu school over to Kenpo school. So I went down there and opened the first Kenpo karate school ever in Brazil about 6 months ago. It was a big success. He's got about 100 students there now. He's a rock. He really is he's a rock and sock and tough guy. And it's great to have him on our team. You know, it really is. But nice guy that unfortunately wasn't at the camp last year. He had some personal problems, but it's a nice thing now that we're getting, you know, in so many countries. We're in 21 countries now. So we also have a school in Bolivia. So if you happen to be in the neighborhood, I don't want to know why you're in the neighborhood of Bolivia, but we have a great school in La Paz, Bolivia now. So anyway, things are going great, and I think it felt very different this year at the camp in Las Vegas for us. Mr. Johnny and I were just talking about that, because I think we're big enough and we're strong enough. We've got schools all over the place, and we've got incredible diversity of people. Gentlemen, do you know the name Steve Labounty? Does that name mean anything to you? He was Huck Planus' first teacher, and he's, if not, yeah. Oh, was he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. He's a wonderful guy. He really is a nice guy. And so, as of just this last year, he's joined in with us now. So we have probably, I think, the most senior guy in all the Kenpo. So we got people like Steve Labounty and Huck Planus and John Sullivan and Lee Wedlake and Gil Hibben, and a huge list of guys from all over the world that all represent a huge diversity in Kenpo. They're all teaching different. We're all teaching different aspects of Kenpo from different eras of Mr. Parker's life. But it is that idea of inclusion, where we're all one family as opposed to the exclusion, isolation. This is what we're all about. This is the spirit of what we do in our camps and in our associations, to try to make everybody feel like they're welcome, that we all have value. And that was the one thing. There were two things Mr. Parker wanted me to do that I told him I would do. And one of them, of course, is the movies. And the other is to then help use that to create a venue where we could all get together. And it's really working wonderfully. It's working so good. So I'm just really proud of what we've accomplished. It's not me. I didn't do it. We all did it together. And this only works because we all decide it's going to work. And it's just going great. I'm just telling you how proud I am of you. That, I'm proud to be associated with you. And I've said this many times before, but there's something special about you guys here in Ireland. You've made me feel so much a part of your family. I just really love coming here, and you guys, you're just doing a great job. So I'm just really proud of you. I just wanted to let you know that. Any questions or comments about anything? I'm going to say that, and you're going to be quiet. I mean, come on.
One thing, everybody, tomorrow's session is at 12 o'clock, 12 noon, so if you're not planning, you can be here if you appreciate it. And the other thing is that Steve brought some Kenpo gear over. We have some Kenpo hats, some t-shirts there. It's nice design stuff, and if you're a Kenpo practitioner, it's something you really should have. So have a look outside. If you're interested, you can talk to Martin about it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the new Kenpo gear line that just came out at this point. I hope you like it. There's these big bodybuilding shirts that are called Batwing shirts. They're really great for working out. Some t-shirts and things, so I forgot about that, thanks. All right then, how many are coming back tomorrow? Great, good, okay, we'll have some more fun then. All right, down the technique I'd like you to do, first, my motivation for altering the techniques slightly was because I felt as though they needed to accommodate two principles that are endemic to how we use a knife and also how we defend against a knife. And those two principles are called angle versatility, which you can imagine kind of the way to think about some things in Kenpo. Our origin is Xuan Fa Kung Fu, so we're really much more Kung Fu than we are Karate. But so Kenpo Karate is the Japanese word, and Chua Fan Kung Fu is the Chinese word. They're actually the same thing with the two different words. Really, if you were to try to explain that to a group who are non-Kenpo people, one of the things that does make Kenpo Karate a little bit more appropriate that we choose the Japanese history is that there is a lot of Japanese karate in what we do. Just the fact you guys were first wearing a Japanese uniform. Secondly, you stand in a horse stance and you fire away with the basics. That's a very Japanese kind of a thing. Professor Matoshi was a Japanese stylist who was one of the gentlemen who started Kenpo Karate in Hawaii, which is where Mr. Parker came from. And then some years after Mr. Parker died, Frank Trejo went to Hawaii by the invitation of a few guys there that still teach the original Kenpo Karate. And these are guys that still teach out of the same church where Mr. Parker started at, and when he was 16 years old. And they're not, they don't take students in. When they die, then it's going to be the end of that era. But they had heard so much about Frank Trejo, they invited him to come over and work out with them, which he did. And so they were telling him about that when Mr. Parker started in karate, he actually started studying Japanese Go-Juru, that's actually the art I started in, but it's a very popular, of course, Japanese style, very much like Shotokan is very popular now, maybe more so than Go-Juru, but at that time Go-Juru was the most popular Japanese style. And so we have a lot of Japanese influence. in what we do. That's why it's a bit more appropriate for us to say Kenpo Karate as opposed to Xuan Fa Kung Fu. And if you watch guys do Xuan Fa, they do look very different than us. They have a bit of a softer, more circular kind of flow to their motion. And now back to what that means for us. In more of a Chinese kind of a philosophy or Kung Fu idea of movement, just basically they would use a bigger circle, and using bigger circles, the main articulating joint would be the shoulder. So they would have a much bigger kind of movement, as I'm sure you've seen in many demonstrations or movies or what have you. Now if you take that circle and bring it down, one of the ways that we do that is, for us in Kenpo, our primary articulating joint would be here. It would be our elbow. So we work off of our elbow a great deal more than we work off of our shoulder, like the exercise that you were just doing, this one. You know, where we talk about leaving the elbow here and letting it through. Then you put a weapon in your hand, and then that articulating joint moves down here to the wrist. This is what angle versatility is. So a sharp-edged weapon, especially if it's hot on both sides, you have to accommodate how many different angles it can cut on. It's almost like if I was holding it in the middle of the universal pattern, and you can see all those interlap, and you see all the trouble that's in here, you know, forward and reverse motion, and the depth of that motion. And the second is return in reverse motion, because a firearm, for example, you know, does its damage going that way, the bullet going that way, and the knife can do its damage going that way or coming back. So you have to try to accommodate angle versatility, trapping and staying away from those problems, as well as a bigger, broader stroke of that knife coming back. So even though you might parry a knife, it might be able to come back on a different line and still cut you. So that was my motivation for making some of these alterations. Glancing lance is the first technique that we're going to do. And the idea is that it's a right-hand knife, long blade thrust to the midsection. You're starting with your hands down. There are other techniques that start with your hands up. But the idea here would be that you're not quite in a fight yet. You know, maybe it's a surprise move, he just pulls it out, and there he comes. All right? So, with that being said, let's begin. We'll do the first few moves, empty hands, and then we'll pair off and we'll do it with a knife. So, what I want you to think of is the knife is getting thrust by the right hand toward your midsection here. Now, I want you to take your right foot and step all the way back here to 730. And you can see that if you can kind of imagine this line in the floor. If I step off to 730, I'm stepping off the line of attack, which is why you want to step to 730. I don't want to step back to 6 o'clock, because then the only thing I've done is increase distance between me and the knife, and so I'm still in the line of attack, as it were. So by stepping with your right foot to 730, not only am I going back away from my attacker, but I'm also going off the line of attack. So you're doing those two things. As you move with your right foot to 730, as I move this way, you can obviously see I have a long hand, short hand. So I have my hands are not equal distance. So it would follow then, now I'm going to alter and have this be my 12 o'clock so you guys can see it from that angle. So then as I begin to step back, my closest hand is my left hand. Because of that, it's the most important hand related to deflecting the angle from the knife. So it wouldn't make sense to have my rear hand be the most important hand. Because see, I'd have to reach out there and try to grab it, and then come in with the left. That doesn't make as much sense as starting with the left, because it's the closest hand to the blade. Follow that? So as I step back with my right foot, my left hand is going to come straight in a straight line with my fingertips inverted to start at the wrist, but then continue on that angle of deflection and wind up right at or about the elbow. So one mistake here would be is as I step back to catch the outside of the wrist here and then guide along with the wrist. I don't want to do that. I want to create an angle of deflection with my heel palm and stay right on that and slip up the side of the forearm and wind up at or above the elbow. Okay, that's your left hand. As I'm doing that, so I'm doing two things that are very important. One is I'm stepping back and off the line of attack with my footwork, and secondly, I'm creating an angle of deflection and guiding the blade over there. In a worst case scenario, the blade goes over there and I go over here. So at least I avoid the initial penetration of the blade. So that's the idea. As I step back, create that angle of deflection, my right hand comes in close to my body, and then as I now slide up, I still have angle versatility as a problem, right? Because I can hook that knife back around. So my right hand coming in close to my left hip, then comes up and around, and I grab the outside of that wrist to eliminate the angle versatility. At that time, I want to grab in with my thumb. I want to take my left thumb and try to put pressure on and around that radial brachialis nerve that you've come to enjoy so much in the last couple of days. He had a drink with his left hand last night. It was terrible because I got I really felt, oh, you too? I really felt bad about it, then I got over it. So as I've got it 30, 40 seconds, I was over it. So as I step back, see my hands, see that gets in out of the way of the knife, and then I come around and grab the outside of the wrist. Okay? You follow that? Let's do that together. So we step back and off, angle of deflection and grab. Very good. Back again. Make sure that your right foot goes over there at that 45, because it's going to get you out of the line of attack. If you don't get out of the line of attack, then what you're telling me is you know that your hands are going to be faster than that person's knife lunge. And that's a game you never want to play. Just in case I'm not quite as fast as I think I am, I'm going to get off the line of attack as well. Okay, ready? And move. Good. Back again. Ready? And move. Good. Back again. Now, these are small details, but when you're dealing with a sharp-edged weapon or a firearm, small details are the difference between, living or dying, or winning the fight or losing the fight. Here's what I'd like to see more of. As I begin to move, I'd like to see your right hand tuck into you, because what I'm seeing is my right hand working right here. You're going. See. So I might even be guiding that knife right into my right forearm. So as I begin to move, I tuck. So I'd like to see this come in over to your left hip. I'd like to see this. The difference of doing this or doing this could be the difference of getting stuck in my forearm or my bicep. It's like, here, get your right hand and lunge it. It's like, trying to step out of the way again. Now I'm trying to guide it out of the way. Now so I could be guiding it right into here if I work my right hand on this line. So what I'd like to do is work. See, I tuck my right hand in here first. Let's see, right in here. See, so I almost brush on the inside of myself. So although the difference seems very slight, the difference between this and the difference between this, you can see how important that difference is. Okay, concentrate on that, please. Ready? And move. Here we go. Very good. Back again and move. Okay, back again and move. Now from that position, you're going to do a retarded ball kick. So it's kind of a halfway roundhousey, bally, kicky kind of thing. So you're going to kick with that's the official scientific language. You're going to kick with the ball of your foot, unless of course you're wearing hard-soled shoes, then you would kick with your toe, which is one of the reasons why I very often wear cowboy boots when I'm out and about in California, because those are much better for negotiating than soft-soled shoes. But in either case, you're going to try to kick here. The sciatic nerve comes from the back and it comes around here next to the knee. So here's where you're looking for your impact value, right there. If I can kick the sciatic nerve right here, it'll help to, it's a bunch of benefits from it. You can imagine it starts to paralyze the leg and really debilitates the person and takes their concentration away from the knife and onto what's going on in their body. So, but in order to do that, because you stepped off at 7:30, now you come on up and do the first move. See, now if you look at the line of attack here, see he's got to kind of sort of roundhouse around my right leg and do the ball kick with your right leg. Boom! And that's what's supposed to happen, and you step forward with your right leg after you do that. Yeah. Right, now when you step forward, you bring this in and hug your hip. See how it's easier now for you to trap that move than if I'm out here. I might be able to use angle versatility a little. You want to trap that away and keep that wrist buried in there from moving. So that's where that kick goes, all right? And see that the outward flexing hinge here is still trapped by your left arm. So Right now we're in pretty good shape. Okay. So let's do that. You see the necessity, it's a head here, and I want to use the roundness of my hip to start to open and pry the knife away. And if it had a hilt, it would help, because I could slide and use the hilt to help pull the knife out. Now, with the knife in what position do we call this?
Short blade.
Short blade. In a short blade position, it's a straight line now, right back up, right into the corner of the jaw, and see how that moves and opens your first strike. Now, most of this, the availability of the strike happens off your angle versatility. This is all a wrist move. So after I come up in a straight line, I go, pow. See, that's all one move right there. Now the knife hits and it comes just around the area of the rear deltoid. Now I'm going to do like a leaping crane kind of a movement, and I'm going to leap behind him and cock my leg getting ready for the kick. And as I do that, I'm going to do a reverse cut across the medial deltoid. So there's 3 muscles of the shoulder, front, middle, and back. The middle muscle allows the arm to do this. If I cut that muscle, this arm can't do that anymore. So now I'm starting to cut specific muscles that are going to begin to debilitate different parts of the body. So after I've kicked and taken the knife out, I go in a straight line up, pop him in the jaw, and see how that opens that slice for both carotid, anterior and posterior carotid artery. My knife is slightly behind it. Now when I leap, see that cut? And I go right into the position for the kick to the back of the leg. Now, because I'm close to him, I'm not going to use a blade kick. I'm going to use an instep kick. This is actually called a reverse kick. So I'll kick back here because I am so close and begin to buckle the leg. And then I step between him. My knife is in front because I did that. So when I stepped, I was here. Then I kicked, and I step down and see where the knife winds up. Now I'm just going to wrap around it. I'm going to pop him in the corner of the jaw with the butt of the knife, and then manipulate the knife around here and use a reverse cut on the trapezius muscle. This muscle holds the scapula, which makes this arm do this. So if I cut the trapezius, then this arm is now gone. Now I come all the way around the front and anchor my elbow in. When I take the other carotids, I also take the voice box, so I don't want to listen to you scream. My elbow's behind you. Now I'm going to contour just along your back, remove my left hand, and drive all the way down into the kidneys. And then I'm going to pivot to a reverse bow, and when I do that, now let's just turn sideways, just right there. Good. So I've contoured along the back and draw right here into the kidney. Now I'm going to pivot to a reverse bow and twist the knife inside and create a vacuum release so that when I come out, I've got the knife leaving the body as well. So like for us in America in World War I, it's the same for everybody around the world, but I mean for us, we lost a lot of our lives because our bayonets were just a flat blade with nothing in them. So when the bayonet would go in the body, there's a vacuum seal that happens, and it's very difficult. Sometimes you have to get it out. And so as they would run in, couldn't get it out, then their lives were taken by other people in the field. In World War II, the bayonets had a T on the, if we looked at it down the middle like this, it had a flat edge. It looked like a T here. And so it created what's called a vacuum. They call it a bloodline. It isn't really for blood, it's for air. So they could go in and back out and then be more versatile. So the idea of you shifting to a reverse bow is when the blade goes in, you turn and create a vacuum release so the blade would come out right away. So one of the other motivations I have for doing this with my students is it teaches them a lot about how to use and manipulate a blade offensively on the body. So we take the blade away, but now they're learning about how to use a knife on the body that usually you wouldn't start learning until you're around 3rd degree black belt or so. So I just wanted to bring some of that knowledge, the basic knowledge of how we would use a knife versus how other systems would use a knife earlier in their Kenpo career and the higher levels of ground belt.
Or if you go to California.
Or if you go to Canada. It's a very important thing to know there. Okay? We'll do this again in the air, but do you have any questions about the specific kind of things we're doing here? Is it pretty clear to you? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll go very slowly. So you see my angle of deflection. Look at that distance. Brought my hand in. Come around and grab. I have the press. I have the hit. Roll. Take the knife. strike, hit. Now leaping crane, see there's my reverse cut. Kick, hit, track, cut, around. See how my knife is straight up and down and my elbow's here. So I really want you to come back here. All of the movements that we do with a knife are so close to contouring the body because it doesn't take any power, it just takes a little bit of manipulation. Then I contour around the back and drive straight in and down, and then I pivot to a reverse roll and come up. All right? Okay. Let's do this in the air, and then we'll get... If I'm going to have my left side forward, then I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to do this. But I'm never going to do this, because now I'm in the way of myself. So if somebody came in to punch, I wouldn't do this. So I wouldn't do that. Or again, same kind of thing. See, I wouldn't do that because I'm putting myself. Punch again, I would do this. See, because I would use the knife as my lead hand, same thing. I would use it this way. So when you do your cross out from here and turn, you do a single cross out and come to here. If I'm going to step back again, then I'm going to do this. All right? One more time in the air, and then the dynamic of what's going on, and the other is pressing into that nerve. That makes that, right? That makes that, makes that hand.
It could be a bit dangerous for yourself. You might end up gripping the blade.
It would be dangerous, yeah, but you're in a dangerous situation. I mean, first you start with, what do you do when somebody pulls a knife? Run, So these are all alternatives for you to think about, Jim Trout here, just so that if he had the knife and he slashes, and I come back over here and I do this and I can't get the knife out, then I'll just leave the knife in hand and,
Right.
So the idea here is if I get to here and if I get the knife out, how can I learn how to use the knife in a productive way? Okay, now we're going to do entwine lance, the way that we do it at our school, and I think of all the knife techniques, this is the one that we teach most radically different than